So again, Nikki, thanks for coming out and talking to me today. Now, before I mentioned Canlock and we sent you the product, had you heard of the company?
I have not, no.
Okay. So what were your thoughts when you first kind of heard about it and saw the product?
I actually really enjoyed it. I liked it. I tested it out. I put some flour in here. I don't know. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I tested it out. It works. I really liked the air pump part to it, and how you just pump it until you get all the I guess residual air out of there. And I appreciated how this part is made out of glass. And I'm not like too picky about whatever material. I think it's plastic. I would say this isn't bad, but if I had to make any like suggestion, I would feel better if this was like a little bit more of a higher quality material, whatever that means. Like it's not bad for what it is. Like you could definitely sell this at like a nice affordable price. But for like the whole concept, I think if it was a different material up here, then it could be worth more. Or I just feel like I would pay a little bit more for a little bit of better material up top. But for what it's worth, it's a great product. I've always liked air sealed tight jars for my weed to keep it fresh. I appreciate how they're kind of like a cylinder shape versus like a fat jar. And I like that. It's kind of funny how they market like portable with a globe on there, because I'm like, okay, they want you to travel with this. So I appreciate that, because I am somebody who, don't tell anyone, but yeah, I do travel with cannabis even internationally. And I usually don't do flower because I'm scared of the smell. I'm not saying I would try traveling with this jar just to see if it works, because I'm a little too scared. But if I was like on a road trip, like for sure I would bring this along, or a camping trip or something where I'm not flying. But I like the fact that they that they put that it's like travel. They're wanting you to travel with this. Obviously that it's washable, the smell proof, built-in pump.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I liked all the features that they listed on their packaging, is what I was saying.
What would you think? Did you have any expectations of what the name Canlock meant it was going to be?
So yeah, at first, without seeing the product, I thought maybe the name was like a secure jar or something, where you like need a code to open it, or something security wise, not so much like smell proof wise. But that's just my first thought, is maybe like it, like, I don't know, a different type of jar that you have to open up that's a little bit harder than just popping it open or twisting it open. But or maybe like a storage container that's to keep more stuff, like more of your stoner stuff, like lighters and rolling papers. So maybe that's what I thought it would have been, like a box or something. But I didn't imagine it being this. Just hearing the name.
Were you pleasantly surprised or disappointed when it came?
I was definitely surprised. I would say it was a positive response for sure. Like I opened it, I was like, oh wow, cool. And then I immediately tested it out. I was like, I like how it has the pump feature a lot. And then I was like, okay, the big test is, does it work? And then it does. Like the smell of this weed is really strong. But then when I do, put it here, pump the air out, I can't smell shit. So it's effective. It works. I like how it's simple. It's minimalist. And like I said, my only feedback would be maybe make this up top material a little bit more, just a different material. Like it's just a little cheap, but other than that, I really like the product.
Where do you typically store your weed?
I store them in jars that I buy from the dispensary. So if I just recycle, but none of them are, air pump. I just put it in a jar and just recycle it. So that's usually what I do.
Are they
Yeah.
just regular jars, or is there something specific about the dispensary jars that you like?
Nothing specific. It's just me reusing a nice sized jar to keep other weed that I may need to put into a bigger jar than like the little tiny like eighth jars. So nothing special. I'm just recycling them, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate, like I said, the pump action and keeping it like airtight.
What do you think it's worth in terms of the advantage it delivers in freshness preservation?
So I did see that you guys sent 2 different sizes, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
like, I think this is for an eighth or less than an eighth, like 1 to 2 grams, 1 to 3.5 grams, and then the quarter size one. Yeah, obviously it's a little bit bigger, taller. You want to know like what I would pay for?
Yeah, I mean, is it worth the $18 or so that it retails at? Does that feel like a fair price point?
I say, yeah. If it's under $20 for the small one, definitely. I already feel like that's a steal. I feel like I would even buy it at 30, 25, 25 to 30 for the smaller one. For the quarter, I would pay 45, 50.
Okay, that's great feedback.
Yeah.
If you're, and I know you're now with obviously a cannabis company and not at a dispensary, but is this the kind of thing that you could see carried in a dispensary as an add-on or an upsell?
Yes. For them to really, I guess, advertise it correctly, I would probably want to keep it either near other jars of weed or put it, near the register. Or I just feel like a lot of people who come into dispensaries, they don't notice cool shit like this. Sometimes they just come in, look at the weed, hey, can I get this, and leave. But if the dispensary store themselves put this like right by the register, or had like a display model with like coffee beans or something, so that we can actually see and smell that it does work, then I think more people would be inclined to like grab and go or be more interested. But my experience working in the dispensaries is that a lot of people are very like one track minded, and they just like want to go see the budtender, can I get this and that, and they don't really spend a whole lot of time looking around unless they're a newbie or a visitor or a tourist. So I would say yes, it would work well in a dispensary, but you would really need to like put it in their face and like have something where they can test it out. Like I said, coffee beans or something else, because you can't legally in the state of Washington, you can't have open product or open flower. So that's the only reason why I say the coffee bean thing. But yeah.
Do you think it has more value if it was branded with either, like we're thinking about branding, like either branded with the store that it's being sold at versus being plain? Like what would be the value of doing one or the other?
I did think about that when I looked at the product. I was like, it would be cool if they could do white labeling. It depends on the store. I think if it's a store that has multiple locations, then yes. I don't know about single stores, like single location stores. I don't know if that would really make enough, I don't know if the ROI would be big enough on a single location store. But I would say it's worth it putting a white label if that dispensary does have multiple locations, then yes.
And what about for a company like Halo? I mean, is that something, I don't know how they package their stuff currently, but would there be a brand fit and potential for a company like Halo to put their product in something like this?
Well, we don't grow, so we only do extractions.
Okay.
So we buy the flower from a third party, and usually it's in like big, like big bags.
I forgot that you did the extraction and the vape cartridges.
Just oil. But what could be a thing, I mean, if they made maybe like, do they only have these two sizes?
I think they have 3 sizes. We can take a look at their website. In fact, I can show you.
Because I was wondering if maybe they had like an ounce sized one. I don't know if they do have one that big. I don't remember. I didn't check.
Well, feel free to, like comment on what you're saying and I'll pull up the site.
Okay. Yeah, because I would say if you're talking about maybe if this company wanted to join with a grow or a garden who does package their flower and sell it to dispensaries, I've seen some companies use a different type of jar or a different type of container for their ounce size. So yeah, like in Washington State, it's different than Portland or Colorado, where here you can only buy flower you can only buy it where it's already packaged as a gram or an eighth or a quarter, half ounce or a full ounce. So it's already packaged for you. But I've seen some companies put their ounces in like really cool containers or a different container than their typical 1 gram or 3.5 gram jar. So if they were wanting to partner with a grow, I would say it would be cool if they could offer like ounce sized jars. And that way, the customer could keep the jar and also be like, oh, cool. Like, let me go check out this company. Oh, they have smaller sizes. That could create some curiosity. But I don't know if it would be worth it for a garden or a grow to put all of their flower in like all these eighth jars or all the quarter jars. I think it would need to be something special size, like either a half ounce or a full ounce.
Yeah.
It could be worth it because I think it's a really cool concept is all I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. So I thought there were 3 sizes, I guess, in the consumer one. I'm trying to find the page. I know there's a page that talks about how much you can put in each one. So I'm just trying to find that.
Okay.
Maybe it may be on their other site. It may be on their shop Canlock site. Let me look.
All right.
And if you were describing why, why a dispensary should carry it and talking to the inventory manager, how would you describe this to him or her?
I would say, hey, we're offering, let's say I'm from Canlock Gardens. And I was like, hey, so we're selling our ounces of flower in these really cool airtight built-in pump jars. And it's really cool because I like how, like I said, the shape is really kind of what gets me because it could almost look like a canister or something, and it slides into backpacks really easily. It's very discreet, and I would just say it does keep your weed fresher longer, and you get that like first jar open smell every time. So I would think that it would be more of a lucrative kind of deal if like people were only getting this jar or this container with the ounce sizes. So it's almost like an incentive. If I would make it like an incentive, be like, hey, if you buy more of this size flower from us, we'll put them in these really awesome jars, these really awesome containers that keep your weed fresher longer, discreet.
It's interesting. I think David's Tea, I don't know if they have that where you are. I think they do something like that, where if you buy a certain amount, it comes in a container.
In a container,
as opposed to a bag. Yeah, so it seems like that kind of an analogy.
Exactly. It's more of an incentive, I would say, not only for, the grower to sell more weed at once, but also the end consumer to walk away with a sustainable, I like how they also put it's a washable jar. So You know, it's multi-use. I think our planet needs to be more like eco-friendly, so it's a good incentive for both parties.
Now, do you think a place like you were saying like a chain like Nectar? I don't know what the chains are in Seattle, but would want something branded like this, like where people would take it as a souvenir, as a showing that, you know, this is where they shop, like or just plain?
Yeah, I would say I'm gonna lean more towards like not really. I think more stoners or people that would want this type of container would prefer it to be kind of like low key or just plain, like you said. I think if you just like, you don't have to put a brand on there, or you can make it more subtle, but I think that it would sell more if it wasn't particularly branded to a certain store. That's just my take, because I don't think people really care about showing off where they shop. You know, a lot of people are kind of like, they want to be discreet about it. It's really weird, especially in Seattle. You know, it's like people come in and they're weird about their IDs even being scanned. They're like, I don't want people knowing that I go. I'm like, chill out. It's just the law. You know, like we have to scan your ID to make sure. But a lot of people are really weird in the sense of they don't want too many people knowing that they're hot-headed, you know. So I don't necessarily think people would be super proud to be like, yeah, you know, I shop at a Have a Heart is a chain of dispensaries here. I really don't think people would be like super proud, but I guess it's all about branding. Honestly, it's all about branding, and if the store is cool enough for someone to want to get something branded. Like I said, it's another way for Canlock to definitely make money by white labeling, but I don't necessarily think that should be their all-in bet, because I don't think it would be the main way to make money off of these. I would think that they would make more if they kept it plain, or if they just kept Canlock on here.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. Now, speaking of plainness, if they were to go with the print, can you see the different colors?
I don't see what you see right now.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me let me course correct here. Gotta expand. Got too many things open at the same time, apparently. Okay, so this is some potential designs. Thinking about Seattle,
yes.
What designs, if any, resonate besides the clear?
I would definitely go with the black, of course, the rainbow, and I would say the blue. Maybe, I like the colors, actually. It would be cool to have different options, because sometimes people, another way to keep your weed fresh is to keep it away from sunlight as much as possible. So I think having a darker colored container would also be a good option besides clear.
Okay, because you talked about discretion, and you talked about like that. Like, I wasn't sure if this was perceived as more discreet than a clear container where you can see what's in it.
Oh, for sure, because for one, you don't even know what's in there because you can't see inside, and for two, it could almost look like, maybe not the small one, maybe the bigger one could, it could look like a little cup, a little thermos or something. So it doesn't necessarily scream, I have, really stinky weed in here. So I think if they did have the option of the colored jars, would definitely be way more better, in my opinion, than just selling a clear jar, for sure.
And in your experience as a bud tender, is there a consciousness about freshness or dryness versus moist weed, or people just
Yeah.
coming in? Oh, there is. So talk to me about that. What is that like?
Like the differences between the different like.
Yeah, like do people care enough to pay more for this idea of preservation than just getting it in a bag or, you know, some regular plastic container?
No, I definitely think people do care, especially if you're like a daily flower user. There are some companies who sell their flour in jars, but like a regular twist on lid jar, but they do include a packet in there. I think it's like an anti-humidity packet, and a big brand, I think it's actually from Colorado. It's called Boveda. Have you heard of
Okay.
this
I'm
Boveda?
not, I've heard the name, but I haven't heard, I haven't personally seen it, but I'm not, you know, I'm not a huge dry flower shopper, so it
Yeah.
could be that I'm just unaware.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's another thing is like as a or flower consumer, whenever I see a company going like an extra step to make your weed last longer or make it fresher or keep it at that like perfect cured consistency where it's not too sticky and it's not too dry, that would be a company I would want to go back and keep buying from because it shows that they care about the plant and the quality and the freshness. So yeah, I would say it would be a good thing for
Well,
sure.
yeah, like no pun. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's all I was saying. That
Okay.
yeah, it does matter. I think freshness. Yeah.
I was going to say no pun intended, but is there sort of a halo effect to companies using this level of freshness packing versus a regular glass jar? Like would consumers notice or care?
Yes.
How, yeah, how would they know? Like what would be the cues? I mean, would the bud tender tell them, or would you think they'd be able to see or get a sense of it without that?
I would say it would be a little bit of both because when like let's say I'm a bud tender and I'm explaining to you here are your options of weed, right? You've got you know, A strain here, you got B strain. And then typically like here in Washington, we would pull 3 different jars of the same strain. That way the client can look at, you know, which jar they want to pick. We like to give them an option. Not every store does that. They'll just be like, okay, you want an eighth of, you know, Skywalker OG, here you go. But at some stores, we actually take the time to get like 3 different options for you, set it out in front of you. That way you can like, you know, look at it, inspect it. And so from that point, if I was like a very knowledgeable bud tender, I would point out, hey, did you know, Canlock Gardens they put a Boveda pack in every, you know, quarter or any quantity that's higher than a quarter, they put Boveda packs in there to keep your weed fresher longer. Or I would be like, as the customer, I would pick up the jar, you know, try to see which option I want, and I would usually people flip it upside down to look, and that's typically where the humidifier pack is at. And then for me, I'd be like, oh, cool, what's that? And then you would read about it, and you're like, oh wow, that's fancy, or like this company really cares. Like I want fresh weed. I don't want dry shit. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both of the consumer picking it up, looking at it, and the knowledgeable bud tender to be like, hey, did you know that this company provides this in their jars?
With the fact that you don't have to have the little humidity absorbing packet in there be perceived as an advantage? Like does anyone have a problem with those packets that this solves?
Besides, well, the thing is with most companies who just put flour into jars, not every company is going to cure their flour correctly or cure it right. Like it can look pretty in the jar, but then I've ran into some weed where I go to break it down or grind it up, and it just like crumbles into dust, or it's like super dry. So from then on, I would be like, okay, looks aren't everything. You can't just be like, oh yeah, that's a pretty bud, because here we can't smell it, we can't touch it. We have to just wait till we get home and crack it open. So it's a lot about hit or miss or getting the budtender's recommendation. But I think there are too many companies out there who just, put their flower in jars and call it a day. But for me, I would say I would care more if I saw a company also caring more about their end product and standing out from the crowd of, a whole row of jars of pretty weed. Like, what's the difference besides the price? If you had all really top A grade strains laid out in front of me, and I looked at every one, I'm like, oh wow, they're all really pretty, they all smell really good, but which one am I going to buy? If they were all named the same strain, right? I would look at the jar that was different. Oh, you come with an airtight pump. Oh, you have a anti drying packet in your packaging. I'm going to go for the people that actually show something else than just here's a plain jar for you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So okay, so I get that it's differentiating. In terms of its benefits, you've talked about discretion, like the sort of privacy that it affords, that you can't smell it. There were a few other. Pardon me.
The shape.
The shape, yeah, I know you mentioned the shape. On that list of things, if you were to put in order the top 3 things that that are selling points of this particular device, what would you say?
Smell proof, built-in pump, and that it's washable.
Okay, cool. And did you as budtender, when you were a budtender, receive any education about cannabis freshness or preservation?
We did. And that's where, like I said, the only thing I'm kind of able to base this off of are those Boveda packets, because that's the only thing that I've seen sold in stores where a company went the extra mile to keep your weed fresher and last longer. That's literally the only thing, that I've noticed in the industry in my whole 2.5 years. No one's ever they put it in cool looking different shaped jars for their ounces, but there's never been anything where it's like with a pump. So that's why I'm like, it's very unique and different. I think people would be very curious. I think people who are fidgety with their hands, kind of like me, I just love the pumping mechanism. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say. I don't know. Did you have any other questions about that?
I'm thinking about dispensaries, and these would come in like a stock of, you could buy either 50 at a time or 100 at a time. For the kind of dispensaries you've worked in, does this seem like a product that would move and be purchasable in those quantities?
In how many? Sorry,
either 50 at a time or 100 at a time come in a container?
I would say it depends on the dispensary and the location. If we're talking about Seattle or Washington State in general, like I said, I would really only target those stores that have multiple locations, which there are a good amount. But like I said, yes, I think it would move, but you would need to target specifically stores that have 3 to 5 locations.
Got it. Okay.
For it to be worth it, in my opinion.
Oh, well, I really appreciate your time, and I want to be sensitive to it. So I know we only kind of glanced at the websites, but if I have any questions, can I follow up with you, because you always are such a great source of insight on this category.
For sure. Yeah.
Thanks. Well, I'm glad you had fun with the product and that you're enjoying it.
And I'm going to use it, and I'm going to bring it to work and show other people too if they're curious about it. But yeah, I think it's a cool thing. And I hope that they can be successful.
Yeah.
Because it's a good product, and I see potential.
Yeah. I was thinking of one thing. Can you see a company doing a line extension, premium line extension, in which they would pack it in this kind of packaging as differentiating it from their the rest of their line?
Like a luxury line or
Yeah.
an A line versus the B line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. It depends on the pricing though, because I feel like it could get expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But if a grow or a producer or a garden, whatever you want to call it, if they could make it happen, I think, like I said, it would be an incentive to both the end consumer and the company, because your end consumer is going to see your company as, oh wow, they're, they're a little bit fancy, or wow, they're top shelf, they're worth the money. Like, things have to, if you're going to price it at a premium, price point, it needs to be worth it. So I definitely think that this container would make it worth it. You just, like I said, you have to brand it correctly, and the flower that you're going to be selling inside of this has to also be top shelf for a consumer to want to come back for more.
Okay.
Or for them to recommend it to someone else, to be like, hey, yeah, even though it's like $60 an eighth, like, it comes in this cool ass reusable jar that, it doesn't smell. So yeah, it's worth it.
Great.
I would say it's worth it.
Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate